Want to grow your business? Do you have a vision for creating greater success? Well, welcome to the Women Speakers Association's WSATV Women Premier Show, because you want to learn today, and you will learn today, how to communicate, execute, and optimize your business to drive profitable growth. So let's meet our expert today who's going to walk us through this, Pamela Stamba. She has some great insights and was going to empower our success. Hi, Pamela.
Hi, Laura. It's wonderful to be here. So, Pamela Stamba, I'm a behavioral change master, and you can find me online at accountabilitypays.com.
Wonderful. I'm so happy you're here today because, a lot of people talk about success and business growth, but you're talking about how to drive profitable growth. So I want to know what advice you have for our viewers to do that.
I would love to give some advice on that. There are, of course, communicate, right? Communicate means that there are people you'll be dealing with. People are your key to success. So hire A players where needed and don't settle for less. If they don't work out within 90 days, then change them out because it's not good for them and it's not good for you. Additionally, then when you get the right people, reward them, treat them well, pay them what they are worth. Turnover is incredibly expensive, and lack of engagement costs between $450 billion and $550 billion a year in the United States. So that's people, right? Communicate, make sure that you're communicating. Then executing means that you have to do the right things in the right order in order to get results. Now, I don't have to put too much time into the fact that things are changed. Things are changing, right? That every day there's a little something else we're up to. Are we wearing masks? Are we not wearing them? Like that kind of thing. And so what you want to do is to be sure you're measuring what matters. And the metrics that matter to you should be watched as often as it makes sense to watch them. You don't want to overdo it, but you also can't underdo it. So for example, if you're measuring sales, if you're measuring supply chain has become an issue, if you're measuring whether the components of what you do, the things that you need to operate are there, then use the trailing 12-month indicator or the 12-month moving averages, which are particular indicators that smooth the data and don't make you herky-jerky in reaction. So communicate, execute, and optimize. How do you optimize? Well, your systems and your processes need to be working. And that is empowering your people to know their system better than you might know it. Take their advice because they know what's working, what's not working, and you honor them when you listen to them.
I have one question to take something just a little deeper. We're in a virtual world a lot now. Corporations have moved to having a lot of virtual staff. And keeping track of them and engaging them in particular is a challenge. Do you have a tip on that engagement piece you talked about?
Yes, I actually do. In fact, it's a focus. So I use a tool called the Harrison Assessment, and I introduce it right now because there's a behavioral competency that says how likely is someone to be successful in a remote environment. Some people are thriving and others are struggling. So what you have to really do is up the game in terms of communication. I have a client who has a tea party every afternoon at 3:00, and everybody gets together on Zoom to see how it's going. And that's really, a kind of a brilliant move to keep people in communication, to be able to watch how are people doing. They might not tell you they're not doing well. You can tell.
I love that idea of doing a tea party. It's very British, let's do tea, right? And they do take those breaks. And why not do it virtually together and kind of make it a cultural thing?
Yes.
And now we have Zoom, we have these immersive views you can put people into, and you can have fun with them. There's all kinds of virtual tools out there that enhance the experience. So I think it's about getting creative is what I'm hearing you say.
Mm-hmm. And engaging, right? I mean, if you're engaging, they'll be engaged, and they can look forward to something. So whether it's a weekly, but keep engaged, listen to people, ask questions, be interested. Bring your curiosity to what's going on with your people.
Yeah, especially if you've done the other pieces you've talked about, like you've hired the A people, treat them well. This is one way to do that. And then keep them accountable and put in those systems. And would you recommend with that Harrison assessment to use that before you hire somebody?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And I help my clients get that to work as well, because there's eligibility, which is, can you do the job? And then there's suitability, which is, do you want to do the job? And people are often hired because they can do the job. Well, I like to say smart people can do anything, right? But you want them to want to do that work, because that's where the fulfillment is. People leave or are invited out the door because they aren't doing the work. Why not? If they were hired because they could, what's missing? So
Right.
yes, I highly recommend it.
That's a good indicator. That's brilliant. So let's talk a little bit about you and your expertise. Who do you love working with and what do you love doing with them?
Well, so I love working with growing companies. And what I love doing with them is helping them to get profitable, right? So I'll just share a little story where I was working with a client. I began by walking in the door to do some teamwork with 5 people sitting around that table, the executive team. And the obstacles were lack of trust, lack of common goals, like they didn't even agree what they should be working on, lack of honest conversation about issues rather than about people. So Laura, people have to feel safe in order to say what's authentic for them. And and that's hard to create because it can be created in one moment and lost in another. So safety creates the environment for trust. And that was missing. They had lack of agreed upon and clearly communicated organizational processes. We started first with the people, though. You have to have the trust in order to move anything. And then we could identify the ownership of the tasks, the expectations, the timelines. We could identify the gaps in the handoffs, right? When it goes from sales over to somebody who's going to do something with it, over somebody who's going to deliver, right? Those are all handoffs. And when you don't have clear communication in those handoffs, you have a source of blame and not being owner of the issues. And it becomes a blame game about people instead of about issues. So the good news is that 3 years into the work, the company had its most profitable year in 30 years. Customer measures of satisfaction, customers were 99% satisfied. I had them do that measure, by the way. They weren't looking. They knew they were happy, but they didn't know how happy they were. And then they also achieved a 15% reduction on costs on average in the operational divisions of the company. And the following year, which by the way was the COVID year, by February, the sales team had met their goals, sales goals for 2021. Now, that is really good news. Now, delivering on those sales was not possible. So there were some real serious breakdowns there. But that was the result of my work, was that by golly, we were charging on, profitably growing, doing all of those things you say you want.
Yeah. So to be profitable, you have to have both pieces in place. If you can't deliver, then the profitability will go down. But I know your expertise is on getting those systems and people communicating, optimizing the process, and
Yes.
then making sure it happens. And there's something to that because I would imagine many organizations are not thinking like they think they're safe, but they really aren't safe because people don't realize how they're being unsafe with emotionally with
Well,
other people.
that's right. Some people roll much more softly than others. And one of the things that we actually talk about I have an emerging leader accelerator, which is within the organization. Once you've gotten some growth, here you've got the first people who were in with the company. Now you're adding people, you turn them into a leader. Whoops. What do I do now? Right? Before I was an implementer and now I'm a leader. So in the Emerging Leader Accelerator, we talk about how to manage yourself in the context of being a leader, which is its own uniqueness. And so in the Emerging Leader Accelerator, I'm able to say, hey, let's look at your paradoxical imbalances. What is a paradox? It's two seemingly opposite traits or things that you need both. Now, neither you nor I have been a mother, Laura, right? We talked about that. Nonetheless, you and I both know tough love, right? What is that? Well, if you deliver to a child too much tough, you got one kind of problem. And if you deal too much love, people won't sit next to you in a restaurant. You have a whole other kind of problem, right? They don't understand the boundaries of the world as it works. So you need the both and that's what a paradox is. And the uniqueness of our blind spots is that we may not know we're expecting relationship to hold people accountable. And then they don't do what we expect them to do, but we were so nice. And then we get mad, right? So those are the imbalances of enforcing and relating, right? So you need the both and in a lot of places that are undistinguished. And that's one of the gifts of the Harrison assessment, is to be able to distinguish those and do something about it.
Yeah. So you really are empowering and emerging leaders, and empowering profit and emerging leaders. So that's what also we do here at Women Speakers Association. We love emerging women business leaders and speakers. And so I wanted to know, about your experience with Women Speakers Association. Tell us about the value you're already receiving.
Oh my gosh. I really love this Women Speakers Association. First of all, I've hired someone as a consultant that I met here. I'll be a co-author on the book coming out in February of 2022, and I've already submitted my portion. And I've upgraded my Zoom account from a relationship that I got here. It really, as with everywhere else in the world, it's about relationship, isn't it, Laura? And you and I are here in San Diego, and we haven't ever met before, but here we are having a wonderful conversation and getting to know each other.
It really is a virtual connecting organization. And in fact, in 2020, we launched more of a localized, but still virtual because of the pandemic.
Right.
But we started really connecting members even more closely with our global business connectors. And everybody, you can find out about that at WSALive.com, attend and meet some of the people first. Or if you want to do what Pamela has done and join us as a premier member, start to get featured, start to learn how you can meet people who can enhance your business and your life and give you the tools that really take you to the next level, go to joinwsa.com. And Pamela, thank you again for your wisdom, sharing your advice, and being such an engaged inspiration here at Women Speakers Association.
Well, thank you very much, Laura. It's totally my pleasure.
Well, we'll be back again next time with another valuable edition of the Women Speakers Association WSATV Women Premier Show. Bye for now.